We know what ignorance is. Pluralistic can be understood a few different ways, but basically it's the idea that more than one principle exists, or in sociologic terms, the idea that a society benefits from minority participation while maintaining their cultural differences. But pluralistic ignorance is something else. Pluralistic ignorance is a social phenomenon where people privately reject a belief or norm, but go along with it publicly because they incorrectly think that others accept it. Everyone is misreading everyone else, and this collective misperception keeps the norm alive even though most people don't actually support it. Some classic examples of this are college drinking culture, the emperor's new clothes, workplace norms. It creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Your public behavior reinforces others' beliefs that you support the norm, which reinforces their public behavior, which reinforces your belief that they support it. It can be really powerful in situations where there is a social pressure to conform and limited honest communication about private beliefs. The gap between private attitudes and public behavior can go on for long periods of time, decades. This term was coined about 100 years ago by Floyd Allport. He and a couple of students, Katz and Schenck, did work on the subject into the early 1930s. Then the research sat basically dormant for about 50 years. Their main focus was in the area of racial segregation, but they also looked at perceptions of alcohol use and classroom behavior. Prentice and Miller picked it up in the early 90s with a landmark series of studies on college drinking. The research has extended into many other areas since then, including things like sexual behavior, political attitude, classroom participation. Recent studies at Vassar College looked at students overestimating the stances of their peers on various social and political issues. There's also been a lot of work in the area of intervention as it relates to the college drinking findings. They have discovered one area where this has been counterproductive by way of a boomerang effect. This is where people who have adopted desirable behaviors sometimes regress after receiving descriptive norms messaging, such as light or non-drinkers, when they hear that most students only have 4 drinks, a message which is intended to affect those that have many more. But the light drinker might think, oh, 4 is normal, I should drink more. But on to more relevant areas, unless you drink too much. Don't do that. Social media and politics. These two create what researchers call a funhouse mirror factory for pluralistic ignorance. Social media has some unique characteristics that make this worse. First, there is a visibility bias. The most extreme emotional or outraged voices get amplified through likes, shares, and algorithmic promotion. Moderate and nuanced voices don't generate engagement, so they remain virtually invisible. Second is self-selection. People who feel strongly about something are just more likely to post. The majority who are ambivalent or moderate simply don't participate, and this creates a distorted picture of public opinion. Then there's the spiral of silence. The individual misperception that their opinion is not shared by others leads to the collective error of a silent majority being suppressed. If you think you're alone in your view, you stay quiet, which reinforces everyone else's belief that your view is rare. There's also what researchers call the conservative bias, not conservative in the ideological sense. but it's where perceptions of public opinion lag behind actual public opinion by decades sometimes, failing to reflect changes and remaining anchored in historic levels and historic beliefs. There is recent research that much of what we might perceive as polarization might actually be pluralistic ignorance. People may overestimate how extreme or divided the populace really is, leading to what looks like polarization, but it is partly an illusion. This creates another self-fulfilling prophecy. You think others are more extreme. You don't speak up with moderate views. Others see only extreme views. People think everyone is extreme. They become more extreme themselves or withdraw entirely. The algorithms play a huge role in all of this. Social media algorithms are designed to maximize engagement, clicks, likes, time spent on the platform, etc. Our brains are biased to see prime information as important and therefore engaging. Algorithms serve up a whole lot of it. Prime stands for prestigious, representative of in-group, and moral and emotional information. This is not new and would have served a purpose from an evolutionary or historical perspective. Learning from prestigious individuals or identifying moral threats made a lot of sense in small communities. The problem is that prime information is most useful when it is both rare and diagnostic, meaning the person who seems prestigious is actually prestigious or successful, or that the behavior being characterized as unethical actually is unethical. But on social media, everything is prime. It is no longer rare nor diagnostic. So what happens? Same old story. Extreme outliers whose opinions create illusory norms are amplified by the algorithms that prioritize engagement. The more outrageous, the bigger the boost. Your brain unconsciously treats these amplified voices as representative of the broader population. Everyone must feel this strongly about this issue. Moderate people see this flood of extreme content, assume they're in the minority, and either don't post or post in some kind of accept me way agreement, and the illusion gets reinforced. The algorithms prioritize engagement, not accuracy. Thus, the funhouse mirror. Extreme views appear normal, normal appears rare. Everyone sees a distorted view thinking they're seeing reality. This isn't a bug, it's a feature, and a profitable one at that. This concept of pluralistic ignorance gets really deep, and I think it relates to some of the other types of ignorance I've talked about and will talk about in upcoming videos. But I do want to talk about some ways to spot it in ourselves and others, some ways to point out the behavior, and some challenges we might encounter when doing that. In yourself, some things to pay attention to is that, am I the only one feeling? When you're going along with something while thinking, does everyone else really believe or want this? This isn't the same as, am I the only one who sees this feeling when no one else does? Now, that's a different problem. Also, you can notice when your public behavior doesn't match your private beliefs. Pluralistic ignorance happens when people wrongly infer that they feel differently from their peers when they're behaving similarly. If you're doing something primarily because you think others expect it, not because you want to, That may be a sign. Having silence about your doubts. If you have reservations about something but assume or fear, voicing them would make you look foolish or out of touch. That's a sign. And then in group settings, experts identify pluralistic ignorance by polling individual members about their personal beliefs and about group beliefs, what they believe the group believes. So when there's a big gap between what people believe and what they think others believe, you've found pluralistic ignorance more than likely. Some signs you might see of this are that everyone is doing something, but no one or not many seem really enthusiastic about it, or when conversations feel performative or scripted, or when people say different things privately than they do publicly. Now, pointing this stuff out might be tricky. Just telling someone, you're experiencing pluralistic ignorance, probably not going to go the way you envision it. So asking questions might be a better way to approach it. Stuff like, I'm curious, how do people actually feel about this? Does anyone find this a bit... I wonder if we might be making assumptions about what everyone thinks here. Share your own private view first with something like, I've got to say, I've been going along with this, but I'm actually uncomfortable with X. This can be an invitation for somebody else to open up, and try to use empirical data when possible. I saw a report or research paper or poll that said most people actually believe X, and see how they react to that. But there are some serious obstacles to try and correct this phenomenon. The false consensus effect can interfere. People often overestimate how many others agree with them, that's false consensus, while simultaneously underestimating support for their position, pluralistic ignorance. These can coexist and work against each other in weird ways. While underestimating public opinion appears as the likely cause, correcting this misperception often fails to motivate those in the majority to act. Even when you show people accurate data, they may not believe it or act on it when their immediate social environment contradicts it. The Facebook feed feels more real than survey data to many people. Even when people learn that they're in the majority, they may still stay silent because they anticipate conflict or social cost from speaking up. Knowing others privately agree doesn't eliminate the fear of public confrontation. Tribalism. If a belief has become tied to group identity, correcting it can actually increase polarization. People are very willing to double down to distinguish themselves as an us instead of a them. Pluralistic ignorance has also been proposed as a reason for the growth in extremist groups in recent years. Sometimes trying to correct the problem can lead to rapid pendulum swings toward previously suppressed extreme positions. Who delivers any potential corrective information matters a great deal also. People tend to reject accurate data if it comes from a source they don't trust, which has become very common in today's landscape. Paradox is a common one these days. The very conditions that create pluralistic ignorance, lack of communication, fear of social sanctions, distorted information environments, also make it resistant to correction. You need honest, open communication to fix a problem caused by the absence of honest, open communication. There's one other aspect of this that will connect to a future video, but it will bear repeating in greater detail. I think people might agree with this on some level. I firmly believe that hot-button issues are targeted by actors from across the spectrum of opinions. They are used by pollsters looking to forward agendas in various directions, and then much information, useful information, true information, false information, is used. Much of that information is used in cherry-picked ways to keep people ignorant and disagreeable. I think this perpetuates pluralistic ignorance, but I think it is better understood as informational warfare. Much more on that in the future. This is more than just people are ignorant. It's a real problem and has in the past, currently, and will in the future lead to some serious issues. I hope this has been helpful to you in some way. If you enjoyed it, consider liking it, sharing it with somebody else that you think might benefit from it or find it interesting. As always, comments are welcome down below.